Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Fran Thomas, and I am one of the co-hosts for Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. This week, Ted and myself have a fantastic, fun, insightful conversation with our dear friend, athlete, Sydney Whittaker. Sydney is on our volleyball team. She's finishing up her sophomore year. She is an absolute rock star, and I always appreciate when a student, and now a student athlete, can give us some insight into what the expectations were, what was real, what was hard, what is she learning about herself and the Lord through athletics. So sit back, enjoy the conversation. We appreciate you guys so very much. All right, Ted Cluck, so fun to be back in the studio. We are going to talk about something today and with someone today that we love and appreciate, but let's talk about athletics today.
All right.
I love it.
I do too.
I love sports. You love sports. Our guest, Sydney Whittaker, clearly loves sports. I need to know before we dive into this conversation, and Sydney, if you want to participate in this, great. Awesome. And this episode, I mean, we're in April. This is going to air in the month of April. Ted, are you into basketball, or are you like, no, I don't care anything about basketball? Or what is your sport? Like, what are you all about?
Yeah, I'm only all about two sports, and it's football and boxing.
Okay.
And I've been all about them pretty much my whole life, with the caveat that I really love, and this is going to sound too PR-ish by half, I really do love watching union sports.
Yeah, me too.
And I love watching union basketball when I have students who are on the team. So in that context, I really do care about it.
Yeah.
And of course, I love watching Sid play and any of my students from time to time to pull up and see them doing what they love to do. But here's my issue with like college basketball and like March Madness, okay? Like,
which is now April Madness.
It's now April Madness. Like, those kids don't know me. I don't know them. So like, there's no sense of investment there. And I'm not gambling on it, right? So, like, at the end of the day, you know, I kind of have trouble, like, getting there with it in terms of caring. But I'm not against it. I know a lot of people love it. Yeah. But I just always love, I think for me in athletics, I always love the personal story. And, like, if I know what somebody's been through and I know a union, like, I know how hard they work and how good they are, right? And I think for a lot of kids that come to union, and I'm really rambling now, blame it on the monster rehab lemonade tea situation I'm dealing with here, no free shout outs, but like, I know how good our athletes are. Like, the sports here are really good, and a lot of kids that come to union, they don't really have a framework for that, so I feel like I'm kind of forever selling union athletics in my classrooms. Like, go see some great performances, you know.
And you also are, what is your title? Faculty athletic representative.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
A lot of power there, Fran Thomas, is what that means. Kind of be intimidated. I mean, be a little bit impressed by it. No. What it means is, you know, as we seek to do athletics at a high level and as we seek to do academics at a high level, which is kind of unique, right? A lot of the schools that we encounter along the way don't necessarily do it like that. But I just act as a kind of a go-between or a conduit between the athletics operation and the academic operation. And if there's disconnect, I'm like the human bridge. I'm a little bit of a conflict mediator, just the guy in the room to kind of make sure each side is understanding each other, because I played college sports and I coach and I place a high value on it, but I place obviously a high value on the academic stuff too.
I love it. Love it. Okay, welcome to the show, Sydney Whittaker.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
This is so fun. People call you Sid Witt.
Yes, that was my freshman year. That was a thing because there's 3 Sydneys, and I was the last one to show up because I was a freshman. So I couldn't have Sid. I couldn't have Sydney, nothing like that. And so Sid Witt is what they called me. But I kind of had to stop that because my classmates started calling me that, and I was like, this isn't going to be my name for 4 years.
So you're not fond of it. You're not fond of Sid Witt. You kind of put a stop to it.
I'm fond of it now because it's nostalgic.
Yeah.
My freshman year.
Yeah.
But whenever like my classmates and my friends outside of volleyball started calling me that, I was kind of like, okay, that's not my name.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the crazy thing about athletics. You get nicknamed
I love
really
it.
quick.
Yes.
It's the best thing about it.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, all of my boys have some sort of sports nickname that they inherited. And I, as their mother, still call them that sometimes.
Yeah.
Instead of their name.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the heck is happening? I don't know another arena in life where you get nicknamed like that and it just sticks. And it's hard to cut that off and be like, no, we're not going to call me that.
I give a lot of my students nicknames, like we're in sports, because to me it's it's an affectionate thing. It's like, hey, you're in the family now, like, you know, it's a term of endearment.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
Yeah,
it is endearing.
Well, I'm not going to call you Sid Witt because I don't know that I've ever called you Sid Witt. But Sydney Whittaker, we are so glad to have you on the show. You are a volleyball player here at Union. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're just going to talk about a lot of things. Union is Division II.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm making a guess here. I think when kids are small, I'm going to say elementary, early high school, and they have played athletics and they start to think they're good. They're thinking, oh, I'm going big. I am going D1, baby.
Yeah.
I'd love to know the number of sweet little precious kids that have their eyes set on that D1 school. I need to know, did you have your eyes set on a D1 school and then we settled here for Division II?
What a question, friend.
But you know what? I don't know. I'm just asking, do you go, I don't care where I go, I'm looking for this more than this, the sport is secondary, not necessarily the first thing. How did you find your way into Division II? Which, you know what? I love me some Division II. You could not pay me to be in Division I. That's hardcore. That's brutal. That's next level, whole nother game. How did you land at Union? Was it sports interest only? Was it academic? How'd you find yourself here?
Wow, so I would definitely say I was 1,000% the kid who was like, I'm going D1, there's no other way.
I love it.
I grew up playing softball pretty much from the time I was 6, and so when I was little, Alabama was really good at softball in Florida, and so everybody's like, I'm going to Alabama, I'm going to Florida, you kind of grow up looking at that, and everyone's talking about that, and I would say over the process of being in high school and choosing volleyball over softball and kind of how that changed my path as an athlete and where I was going to college. And then I would also say COVID had a huge effect on recruiting, especially for my class, which was like 2022, and I'm pretty sure the 2021 class too.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fizzled out, luckily. But that had a huge effect on recruiting. And so I think the Lord definitely softened my heart, humbled my heart, and placed me here, and he really allowed me to have so much peace about that, and just Union, like the decision to come here was 100% the Lord leading and guiding me here. And there was definitely moments of, I don't know if it was disappointment or what it was, but just kind of coming to terms with, okay, like everyone always thinks D1, but that's not what my life is going to look like. That's not what my story looks like, but I'm definitely content with where I've landed and the amount of volleyball it is and the amount of schoolwork that it is together, and I feel very blessed. I mean, God definitely knew more about where he was placing me than I did, you know, and I find that to be true all the time. So I'm really happy with where I ended up, and so
dang. Yeah. Listen, I don't care what you're playing athletically in college, at what level. You know, when you put the academics beside a sport in college, I don't care where it is and what it is you're doing. It's so tough because nobody understands what that is like. I sure don't. Ted does. But I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal.
It's a full-time job plus, and you're navigating your life often in like physical and emotional pain that the outside world doesn't see. Right. You know, you're in turmoil over playing time or teammates or coaches or whatever, and add to that the traditional load of academics, and especially at a place like this where we value it. Yeah. You know, it's a remarkable thing to choose to be at a school like this, but it's going to pay off because you're getting a great education and a great sports experience. And I think it's a at the risk of sounding too philosophical by half, it's like a blow to be struck against the mercenary kind of approach to sports now, where it's like, if you don't like it somewhere, just leave,
right.
you know, and you end up getting these athletes who have been to 6 schools before yours, and it's kind of a joke. I mean, it kind of makes a mockery of the whole thing. So I like that you have stayed here, have weathered some adversity. You've embraced the campus. You've started new things. You've sought to like make life better for athletes at Union. And I think that is this whole thing working incredibly well.
Right. It's not just about the sport, because I say that all the time. It's so much more than the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when you're little, when you're younger, and even maybe coming in as a freshman, it just feels all glamorous. You know, like, look at me. Aren't I something?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're like, whoa, dang, this is tough.
Oh, yeah.
This is hard.
I would say you put it perfectly. Like, you're going through so much inner turmoil, and you're walking physical pain, emotional pain, and nobody sees it.
Yeah.
And you just like go through your day, and that's part of the reason that I wanted to start things for athletes and kind of get conversations going, because it's like we are the only people here that are understanding what we're walking through, and it's happening, and it matters. It's important. There's people who can help you, and there's people who understand. But at the end of the day, I just am thankful for this place, because who I'm becoming here as an athlete and what I'm studying is just so much more important than saying, oh, I went D1 and oh, I did this and did that. But who I'm becoming through the adversity and through the education is just the most valuable thing to me.
So tell me this. I've got a little bit of a story that'll lead to a question. When I was a freshman in college, at a school a lot like this, I was there for football. I was very big and very strong, but I was absolutely terrified of the regular kids in a classroom setting. And I would go in there and I would kind of really want to leave early, and I would never want to say anything, and I would get like so racked with nervousness, and like my face would get red, and I'd get all sweaty if somebody would ask me a question. And you seem to, so I navigated it very poorly. You seem to have navigated it perfectly or well. Like, how did you get over that hump of, you know what, I am different, we're athletes, we wear the gear to class, people know who we are, but like, how'd you get over that hump of like really embracing the classroom and discussions and life with regular kids at Union?
Wow. I will embarrass myself a little bit saying my freshman year I came in, I was like, I am so awkward. I don't know how to talk to anyone I don't know. Like, I was like, this is crazy, because I went to high school with kids I'd grown up with forever, and I got here, I was like, how do I talk to somebody I've never, what do you talk about?
Yeah, right.
But I am so extroverted, and I love people, and I love community. And I would say one thing that helped me was getting into my major and getting into classes that I loved and I cared about, and I was with people who also felt the same way, and I started engaging in conversations. I was like, oh, these people are awesome, and like we have shared interests, and I just love people, and I just find that the more you talk to them, like, and get to know people, like, the more lovable that they are. And so I have embraced that, because I think we all desire community, and I just kind of pushed myself actually out of my comfort zone to talk to people. If I had something that I could say, or like we shared something in common, like I would push myself to do so, because I was like, I don't want to not have friends for 4 years, or not be able to talk to anyone for 4 years. And I've seen a lot of growth in myself and relationships because of that.
That's awesome. That's as it should be.
Yeah.
Now, what's your major? Remind me.
I'm Christian Ministry and Missions.
That's right. And now I had the privilege of, I had you in class for one session. I think it was tremendous. You know, you really did an amazing job that one time, and then you were gone after that. And I in my mind and heart, I was like, where's Sid? You know,
what? Still sad about that.
What's happened? Yeah, I am. I'm still a little wounded.
Were you in journalism? What was this class?
I was public relations.
Oh, I knew that.
Writing across media platforms.
Yeah, it was my 100 level journalism class.
Awesome.
I was excited to have Sid in there. It was awesome for the one day, and then she changed her major, which is okay. I mean, that's totally part of the journey, you know. So no hard feelings. I just want to air that here in front of the audience.
Let me ask y'all a question. I know how athletics is at Union, but Ted, you have a bigger, better understanding of this. athletes, they stick together. They're like little packs of people.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see them everywhere together.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time they split up and break up is when they go to class. But,
sure.
they're like, they work out together. They're living together.
Yeah.
They're practicing together. They're just these little pockets of people that just maneuver around.
Yeah.
Is it hard when you're talking about the classroom and like, oh my God, I'm away from my people and I've actually got to speak to other people? Do you think that's universal, that's true everywhere, that athletes just live in this athletic world? And because I appreciate what Sydney's doing here she hasn't named it, through FCA, is that we're trying to like break down some barriers.
Sure.
And just even within athletics, get other athletes to talk to other athletes. And do you think that's common everywhere?
I do. I think some of it is systemic, right? And some of it is kind of a vicious cycle of we require so much of them in their sport. You're up at 6 to lift, and then you do your class day, and then you're practicing and doing rehab on your broken body and watching film, and you're essentially at work all the time with the same people, and then you go home in many cases and live with the same people. And so by nature of the way the system works, those are the only people you know, and it can be a temptation to like cloister up and only know those people. But I have to tell you, getting to know regular kids in college was one of the most exciting things for me about college, because it opened me up to different conversations, different perspectives. I was kind of kicking the tires on being a writer at that time, and it really like enlivened that part of my life. So I'm super grateful for it. And as a professor, whenever I have athletes in my class, I'm forever trying to kind of build the interpersonal bridges between athletes and non-athletes and get them to not be afraid of each other and see that it could even be joyful, the interactions,
Yeah. Well, okay, so Sydney, I almost called you Sid.
That's
and
okay.
I said I wasn't going to do that, Sid. So we've seen some of these barriers break down just a little bit between teams, and we're so grateful for that. How do you feel, or what do you think about our athletic culture, where we're headed in the context of Union? Because let me just remind the people listening, this is a Christian university. And so, but we're still competitive. We're still like, we're out to win. We want to win. And so how do you feel our culture is maybe now versus what you experienced when you came just well, I guess it's been 2 years. Do you see is it what you expected? Has this been hard? Has it been great? Have there been disappointments? Have you loved every minute of it? I don't know. There's 1,000 places you could go with that. But if a student athlete in high school is listening to this, again, we've all got our eyes set on something. And then the reality is, whatever the reality is for you, how would you explain what this 2-year process has been like for you? Because it's not always great, but it's not bad. It's just, it's a place and a way for you to learn and experience and to grow through athletics. Speak to us about what your journey's been like as an athlete in this Christian higher ed world.
Wow, so I would definitely say it's been a crazy 2 years. So much has gone on definitely within the volleyball program itself, as far as lots of changes, and just in my heart, honestly, as I've gone through these 2 years. And I would say that coming to college, playing and being an athlete, yes, you're an athlete in high school and you're an athlete elementary, middle school, high school, all growing up, but I would say coming to college, I had never adopted so much the identity of, I'm an athlete. And I've talked to other athletes like through FCA, and they kind of agree with me on this. It's like when you get here, you're like, all right, I'm gonna wear the sweatshirt, I'm gonna do this. And when I introduce myself, like, I'm Sydney, I'm on the volleyball team, and it just becomes so much of who you are. And I would say that was just huge for me, especially my freshman year. And then coming into this year, it was like, I am a volleyball player, and that was on the throne of my life. That was my first priority. It was everything I was working for. It was everything that I was. And I definitely saw God humble me in his great mercy and grace in like what happens when those priorities are mixed up. And we did have a tough season this past fall, and that was really tough on me, mostly because it had become who I was. It had become everything that I was working for, and I didn't realize why it was so tough on me, or like why I felt like I had like failed in every respect of my life, because I had put volleyball was what I was worshiping. It was everything I was working towards. And so God, like, graciously, it was very hard, very, very hard, and I didn't handle it in the best way. I'd say Coach Johnny, he's our strength coach, he tells us sometimes that human beings are a lot like trash cans. You don't know what's inside of them until you kick them over. And I would say last fall kicked me over, and I didn't like what came out of me. And like a lot of things I'm not proud of, you know, a lot of things that aren't attractive to say, but I would say the Lord has worked in those things and just brought them to the light, but hasn't left me in that place, and has just shown me like where he wants me to grow in that. And so I would say, like I said earlier, just who I'm becoming through playing sports in college, it's just everything's so much more magnified than it was in high school. And because of that, you see a lot more of yourself, and God shows you a lot more of what he wants to do in you.
Have you questioned, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you questioned, should I be doing this? Do I love this? Do I want to keep doing this? Because it's tough. I think as a high school student, and to be able to say, I'm going to go play this college sport at this school, like, it's fantastic. What an honor, what a gift to be able to do that. And then things start to happen, because it's tough. It's so hard. Have you ever thought about, oh man, did I make the right decision? It's tough.
Yeah, I would definitely say, especially when your body's hurting, when you're losing games, when things aren't going the way that you want them to go. I was like, why am I doing this? And I realized I didn't have the best answer to that question, and I struggle with that. But the Lord really guided me and showed me, like, okay, this is why you're doing this. This is why I have you here, and this is what I have you doing, and like what I want to do through you and do through sports. And I think God is so amazing. I think sometimes athletes are viewed as like, oh, like maybe we don't have, especially on the campus, like don't have a relationship with God. But I say, like, God works through sports so much in our lives and teaches us so much. So I've definitely questioned it, and I have to remind myself every single day my why. But ultimately, I'm here to bring glory to God, and I'm here to share the love of Christ with my team and with this campus. And I think sports gives me the best platform to do so in my case. And I'm just enjoying working at this.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I love it.
Yeah. The Lord's kind to disabuse us of our idols. And I could relate to so much of your story in that was essentially how college unfolded for me. Football was on the throne of my life. And for me, it was injuries and like losing the idol that way and bottoming out emotionally because of it. Like, who am I without this? But then the Lord was so kind to show himself to me and give me grace and joy on the other side of it. So, so cool that we have an environment where you can learn some of those lessons, know, and learn them around people who really want your good and your growth.
Yes.
Well, let's consider, we know who we are as an institution. We know who we are pouring into as far as our students and as far as our student athletes. Like, we know what we're trying to launch out into the world. But then you're also, as athletes, looking at other universities. You're watching other athletes in a completely different level of, they're getting paid to do this, that, and the other. They're branding themselves. They're like, that has to be tough as a 20-year-old. Like, you're trying to figure out who you are as a person, as an athlete in your institution, for you here at Union. And then you've got this whole other world out here that you watch on TV. And like, for us right now, if you're watching Caitlin Clark and, all these other phenomenal college athletes pick the sport, like, really try to set a name for themselves, like, that's hard. Because then you can look at that and go, well, I want that. I want to be able to do that. I don't know if at your age I could figure out how to distinguish the two. Like, I like have to just totally turn off all of college sports because everything that's ever shown on ESPN is just glorifying and look at them. And then I'm like, okay, hang on a minute. I can't do that. I know who I am, and I'm grounded, and I'm right here, and I'm trying to make a difference here, and I understand my identity outside of the sport. Like, I think that would be the hardest thing in all the world as a 20-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that definitely scrolling through Instagram, looking at all of that and just how athletes are glorified now. But Psalm 16, it came to my head when you were talking about this. It comes to my head often with that struggle. It says the boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. And I rest in that. And I am studying ministry, and that's not something that I could do everywhere, and I absolutely love my education here. And so that is one thing where I'm like, okay, this is equipping me for the rest of my life. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And those things are amazing for other people, but that's just not the story that God has for me. And just resting in that and wrestling with that too, because it's very real.
Yeah, I think even non-athletes struggle with that. You know, we live in this world where it's so tempting to want to glorify self and put yourself on a pedestal and build a following, but then what you find is that it never satisfies the gnawing kind of expanse in your heart that only Christ can satisfy, right? So like we learned that football and volleyball can't fill it, and fame can't fill it. You know, so you really, especially at this age, you're looking for what are my sure and steady anchors in life. And you know, we run to the Word, we run to the local church, we run to Christian fellowship and wise input from wise people, and those are the things that sustain us and give us joy.
Amen. Okay, Ted, I want you and Sydney both to answer this question as we wrap up. I want to know, like, and you're coming from, clearly, for you all that cannot see the studio and have no idea how old Ted is, but let's just say Ted is older than Sydney.
Yeah, okay? I am though. Yeah.
You've got greater perspective because you've got a few years ahead of her. What do you think is just the greatest thing you, maybe Ted, have learned? Like, you're so far out now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this thing that I did back there in college, and just the way that you also have, you know, the things you've done with your life in the athletic world. Here are some great tools that you're going to have with you for the rest of your life. This in this sport or in this season is going to help you forever and ever. And I'm not looking for like, perseverance. Like every athlete, they know how to persevere. Every athlete knows how to endure, blah, blah, blah. We know the answer to that.
Okay. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I know you can't. Can't say that unless you want to add a little twist to it.
Yeah.
But like, what are some of those athletic qualities that just like, oh man, this is worth, like, remember this, know this, learn this. You're going to have this with you forever.
All right, I've got a couple. Number one, my dreams are not trustworthy. What I thought I was obsessed with and what I thought I needed in my life was actually not what I needed at all. Wow. And I think the thing that I learned was that God is sovereign. Right? So he's not up there sweating what's happening to me in athletics. God is good, and I saw that through the injuries and his sustenance. And then God is working, right? So he's not silent, he's not absent. He's sovereign, he's good, he's working. He wants to give good gifts to his children, and by his grace, he allowed me for so many years after the injury to enjoy playing. Like, I got to eventually come back in a couple of years and play in a whole bunch of different places that were fun, and he gave me joy in it when it was no longer on the throne of my life. And so it was a good gift from the Lord, and it was kind, and it led to a lot of discipleship and a lot of joy for me. So I think that's probably what I've learned. Sid?
Wow, that was a very
try to top that
answer.
Put together, befitting of an old man. You know, old as the hills.
No, hard act to follow, actually. But while you were asking the question, the first thing that came to my head was just the value of being a part of a team, and what I've learned spending my life and sharing these past 2 years, going to be 4 years, with a close-knit group of people. I think we always interact with people in our lives, and just kind of learning to deal with like conflict and hardships, but also joy, and learning to rejoice when others rejoice and like weep when they weep. And that's been the biggest thing I've grown relationally, maybe not the biggest thing, but one of the things, but I've grown in relationship with people. And you know, when you're tired, when you're hurting, like that's kind of the worst time to be around be around me, at least, and a lot of people included. And that's like really where God has just been convicting me to lean into that and to just love the people that he's put in my life for me to love. And still learning that, still growing through that, but I think that's going to be one of the most valuable things that I take from playing college sports.
Yeah, that's good.
That's pretty put together.
That's
good. Pretty put together answer.
That's
I like
good.
it.
That's good. Well, we love Union Athletics, and your season will start in September, or do y'all start in August?
End of August.
Yeah. All right.
Go Lady Bulldogs. What do we call you? Lady Bulldogs?
Yeah, that seems to be...
Sounds about right.
That sounds about right. Go Lady Bulldogs. All right, Sid Witt, you are a rock star, making a difference on this campus under the umbrella of athletics, honoring the Lord in all that you do, and I'm very thankful for you and just appreciate who you are. And Ted and I are cheering you on, my friend.
Thank you, guys. This has been fun.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Let's Talk About That. Y'all have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Okay, have you been on campus? uu.edu and search campus visits. Let Ted and I know you're coming, okay? Also, if you're ready to fill out that application, we've got a fee waiver code for you. Just type in the word TALK, T-A-L-K, all capital letters. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.